And welcome everybody to our final Bike Pittsburgh Advocacy Network gathering for 2025. Really excited for the conversation with author Carter Lavin we have tonight. Um, my name is Seth Bush. I am the advocacy manager at Bike Pittsburgh. I am a white, redheaded man with a kind of like a teal green colored shirt on and kind of a busy room behind me with some cool art on the wall. Um, and Yeah, really grateful that you're all here tonight. I'll pass it over to Eric to say hi.
Hello, my name is Eric Bohr. I'm the advocacy director of Bike Pittsburgh. I'm a white male and 48 with glasses, and yeah, I'll describe my walls. I feel like are very colorful with orange and red. Um, yeah, I don't know what else I'm supposed to say right now, Seth. So I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, sure. Raise your hand if this is your first time at a Bike Pittsburgh advocacy event, either on camera or using the virtual raise hand feature. It's a good chance to practice it. I know it's at least Ethan's first time. I think everybody else I recognize. Got some applause from Danielle, who I know has been to a couple of our events before. But for anybody who might be new, Bike Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh's biking, walking advocacy organization with a mission to reduce our dependency on cars by making our streets safer for people to bike and walk. And not just safer, but also more accessible and just enjoyable. You'll see us all over, not just doing advocacy, but amazing community events around the city and beyond, education programming all over, and of course, like we're here to talk about advocacy tonight, is the third leg of that stool of Bike Pittsburgh's mission. And we've got this awesome network of neighborhood biking and walking advocacy groups. I think we have close to 25 spread out across the city and into the county. These are neighborhood groups that are organizing in their own neighborhood to advocate on that ground level for the changes that they see are necessary to further this big movement that we have together of yeah, making the greater Pittsburgh area just an awesome place to bike, an awesome place to walk, even to get to the bus. And getting involved with these neighborhood groups is the best way to get involved locally. We've got a lot going on at Bike Pittsburgh, but if you're not yet part of a Bike Ped committee, I encourage you to check out the Get Involved page on our website, where we have a map and a listing of all the neighborhood groups that I'm aware of, and some ways that you can get involved. And if there's not one near you and you want to get started with one, reach out. I would love to help you get started. But the bottom line is we're all working together on this movement to this experiment. It feels like sometimes to make Greater Pittsburgh less car dependent, and we organize these quarterly gatherings to build our sense of community, to learn together, and really to support one another. And so to do just that. I'm delighted to have Carter Lavin here for a conversation about his book. If you want to win, you've got to fight. He's going to tell us about the book. Then I have some questions for him to stimulate our conversation. And I hope you will all bring in some great questions as well to keep it going. I've got plenty to occupy the time, but I know you all are not shy and have some good thoughts, whether it's like high level national movement theory stuff or like in the weeds. I've got this specific challenge. What do you think about it? We'd love to hear it all. And after we talk with Carter for the next hour or so, we're going to spend some time celebrating our wins this year, discussing some lessons learned as a movement, and we'll have some announcements at the very end. Show of hands, who has ordered or started reading Carter's book? I'll be surprised if we have that many people because it literally came out last week. Uh, and if you haven't ordered it yet, I highly recommend it. It's great. Bike Pittsburgh's featured in it, so you can find where. And actually, Pittsburgh is like gets a lot of shout outs in this book. Our friends at Pittsburghers for Public Transit, Laura Chuweens, their director, is contributed quite a bit of insight to it, which I think is really cool. But if you don't have it yet, you want to get it. You can get 30% off on the book. Oh yeah, James, awesome. You put a hold at Carnegie Library today for a copy. That's perfect. But you can get a copy at that link. Use the code webinar. We're also going to raffle away 3 of his books tonight, each to someone who registered and is present this evening. So we're going to do the first one now, and then we have 2 more coming up. So let me pull up the magic wheel of chance here. And you ready? You can have a muted drum roll, please. We'll all pretend we're hearing the drum roll, and here we go. I don't think Chris is here.
Oh,
Chris, you missed out. Let's do it again. Wow. Jeff isn't here either. Not yet. Let's see how many times we have to do this. I'm not going to do it too many before I just pull one at random. Yale! Yale gets a book! All right. Follow up with me afterwards for your prize. Um, Thank you for entertaining my silly tactic. We actually have a handful of books in the office. If you really desperately want one for free, let me know and we can probably figure it out. But we'll get you a free one, Yale. All right, let's get into it. To give a bit more of an introduction for Carter, Carter is a climate and transportation activist who helps organizations and individuals hone strategy and build political power. Carter has directly supported and trained nonprofits, candidates, grassroots groups, businesses, hundreds of individuals to win on the issues that matter to them at the local, regional, and state level. He has written for Streets Blog and Convergence Magazine. I saw he was just on the Break podcast. Congrats for that. He lives in Oakland, California, and is a co-founder of the transportation advocacy group Transbay Coalition, which I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about tonight. And the board game design company Serious Mischief. So maybe you can drop the link. I know you just came out with a new game too, I think. Um, I'm also really proud to call Carter a friend. I think one of our first conversations was an especially wonky one about community solar and grassroots organizing while hiking somewhere on the California coast back in like 2015, 2016. Just delighted we get to have some continue to have wonky conversations 10 years later,
yeah,
Carter. And with that, I'm going to spotlight you and hand it over uh, to you to tell us a little bit about the book.
sure thing. Great. And thank you all so much for being here. And thank you so much for having me. Carter Lavin, he, him. I am also a white man with black hair, a little bit change of pace there. Short black beard, wearing a kind of a dark green long sleeve shirt. Behind me, there's a very bright yellow accent wall. It's like an arch. You can't see the arch though. There's like a beautiful plant and a copy of my book, I would say tastefully in the background of just every Zoom call I have because the book came out last week. So it's really exciting to chat with you all about this. And yeah, it's been great knowing Seth over the years. I think of Seth very much as an organizer's organizer. And like Pittsburgh, you're all very lucky to have him here as someone who both does the work and thinks about how to do the work better, which foundationally is why I wrote this book. So for the past several years, I've been organizing in the San Francisco Bay Area, 9 county region, millions of people, and it's a place where there's a lot that happens. We have every kind of issue and stressor that a lot of other regions have. We have a lot of those, and one thing that kind of keeps coming up for me, and one reason why I wrote this book, is there's some kind of fundamentals of good organizing, whether you are in Oakland, California, whether you're in Columbia, Missouri, whether you're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so I interviewed dozens and dozens of activists across the country, successful activists, to ask them like, hey, how'd you win? What are you working on? What's going on? And it was a delight to like take their lessons, refine it as much as I could into this book, which is a fairly straightforward, like a 200-page thing. if you took the Amtrak to DC, you'd be able to read the book from Pittsburgh there because it's a very slow Amtrak ride, or maybe you're a fast reader. And so the book walks people through kind of the step one of saying transportation, bike, street safety, all this stuff. This is politics, and politics isn't a bad thing. That fundamentally, what we are doing, the stuff that you all do every day, that we do, is about changing people's lives, is about changing our communities. And inherently, that is politics. Like, politics is how individuals in society work together and all their interactions therein. A thing that I think about a lot is like when you want a speed bump, you literally want to disrupt your neighbor's life. Like, that's just very literally what is happening. You are trying to be like, their life is a little too smooth and they're driving recklessly. I would like to disrupt that. And so chapter one focuses in on this concept of like, this is politics. That's okay. So how does politics work? It doesn't matter as much about being right in politics. It matters a little bit, but in politics, it's about building power. And so the next chapters focus on how to kind of refine your goal, how to fight on different types of efforts. So like the cultural lens, the policy lens, budget lens, things like that. That's a lot of chapter two, as well as a little bit of civics, helping people understand, okay, well, I'm mad. Who am I mad at? Like, I'm mad at a thing. Who's the person who is responsible besides like that jerk driver? There's an elected official who's responsible. Then chapter three walks people through context and connections, because although good advocacy is very similar in, whether you're doing this in Pittsburgh or Harrisburg, they're different places. And so it's really important to know how to localize your organizing, how to build connections through that, which chapter three focuses on. Chapter four is walks people through how to work together, how to build out your team, how to find the other folks on your team. Chapter five is about coalitions. And then it ends with inside outside game, talking about how to work with elected officials, how to work against them sometimes, as well as a nice overview of tactics and some tactic like awareness and how to evaluate them. And so it is a pretty short read. I'm excited for it to be out into the world because we all deserve to win. Like, while being right doesn't matter so much in winning in politics, it is very nice that we are right, and we are all right. And so I do want us to win. Like, it is bad for people to get hit by cars. Like, I'm going to take out that position, that radical position, that I would like no one to get hit by a car. And so I wrote this book so that everyone across this country, and there's a bike advocate in Australia who says he loves the book, which that's nice. Like, for people to have an easier time winning the thing that they want to win. And one, for selfless, like, I want you to win. Also selfishly, like, if you win that bike lane in Pittsburgh, like, I also have that bike lane in Pittsburgh. If I go to Pittsburgh and go for a bike ride, I've gone for a run on the Monongahela path years ago. Actually, wow, a long time ago. It's like 20 years ago. So I have, like, the things that we win are additive, and we're in the same country. Like, when it comes to getting our Congress members, getting the big things that we all want, like, I need you all to get your congressperson, your state. Like, Fetterman doesn't care what I have to say. Maybe he cares a little less. Maybe he doesn't care as much about what you have to say as you'd like. But like, to win the stuff we need, I need to get Padilla, I need to get my people, you need to get your people. And so one really cool thing about the book is, I just talked to a group in Missouri and they're ramping up their advocacy. So I'm excited to chat with you all about the questions you might have about your advocacy, contents of the book, and kind of anything. I'm here for the hour, and it's really a great joy to talk with you all.
Awesome. So glad you're here, Carter. I'm going to keep you spotlit, but if it turns into a conversation, I might take you off spotlight, and we'll see where it goes. And I definitely welcome that. I've got a bunch of questions for Carter because I'm excited to get his insight on a number of things. And folks, if you have your own questions as we go, just use the raise your hand feature. You can find that there's like a little heart icon at the bottom of Zoom that says react, and you can pull that up, and there's a raise hand button. And that will let me know that, hey, you've got a question. So I'll call on you when there's a good opening for that. But Carter, I want to start really on this idea of political organizing. You just touched on it briefly. And you say in the book about how transportation advocacy, really any advocacy, is inherently political. And that's a really...
We're literally about to touch.
Oh,
Dave, just back off a
let's
little bit.
just make
Thank
sure
you.
that everybody's
Oh,
muted
gosh.
here.
Yes, you can. Okay,
Figure
okay.
out who's having a hard time right now.
And if they touch each other and their mirror falls
mute
off
them.
over this.
Who's okay? I don't know who was
Okay.
unmuted just now. I couldn't tell. But hey,
I
we're back.
found it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're gonna great. There we go. Political. I'd say a core question that you really explore is how can I build political power with others and then use that to win what we want? So can you talk a little bit more about why politics and political organizing is not a dirty word and how we can embrace that rather than shying away from it, even if it gets uncomfortable sometimes to consider our work being political?
Yeah, I understand that there's a big swath in our community, largely speaking, that like just even hearing the P word, like there's a little something in your belly that turns. And a big part, I believe, is that when people think about politics, oftentimes they think about partisan politics, red versus blue, that kind of stuff, which is fair. That is a very loud part of politics, but that's also just a part that is a like that's a sub segment of it. And I think a big part of kind of accepting that this is political is accepting that everything's political. Whether whether we're talking about bikes or buses or any of this stuff, we as humans are inherently political creatures because politics is simply like how we're interacting with each other. And so one way that I really recommend for people who kind of have this like aversion to advocacy or feel discomfort around it is kind of starting to see it everywhere. Like the more that you see that this is everywhere, that like, oh, um, just for example, you might have a dietary restriction. Like that's a really classic thing. It's like, okay, well, does that restaurant serve you or not? Like, can you literally go to that place? Like, I have a friend who has a deathly peanut allergy, and like, the restaurant not labeling things is them saying inherently, like, we don't care if you're risking your life. And that's a small and kind of intense example, but this is all over the place of like, oh, we are making choices all the time about this. And the act of telling someone don't be so political or don't make a big deal or hey, quiet there, whatever, move on, that's extremely political. And we see this particularly in the traffic violence world where you know someone's dead, someone dies because of something that could have been prevented. And for example, in my city of Oakland, a few years ago, a person was killed, a gentleman was killed biking on a road that didn't have a bike lane that the city was planning on putting a bike lane in about 2 years. And people flipped out. And it's like, it was a thing that we had to explain, like the lack of that bike lane, the delay in that is why this man died. That was a political choice, that setting the budget, setting the policies, that is all political choices. And so getting comfortable with that is really essential because a big part of what we have to do is help other people see that the reason why crossing the street to horseman is dangerous is not because life inherently intrinsically is dangerous and elementary schools are dangerous places. It's like, well, no, someone made decisions about street design. Those decisions were made, maybe it was a committee, maybe it was a group of somebody's, that those decisions were funded, all this stuff happened. These are deeply political decisions. And when we pretend that that just happens, that's just life, oh, just naturally happens that way, that there's a gigantic road through a community of colors neighborhood, like that, those things aren't intrinsic parts of our reality. And therefore we can change them. These aren't like, oh, well, the sun's going to rise, the sun's going to set, and a freeway is going to be big. Like, no, people fought for these freeway systems. People fought for dangerous roads. And understanding that I find is very helpful for kind of accepting the fact like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm just allowed to want things too. Because at a certain level, like being a political actor is like being someone who acts, not like pretends, takes action about politics, is inherently the act of like making your problem other people's problems. And one thing I think about all the time is our system is set up, our communities and our system is set up so that it can absorb as much of your personal suffering as you feel like just taking on yourself. Like if you're like, you know what, I'm going to just grit my teeth and bear it, and I don't like this thing, and I'm going to just like go along. It's like, cool. No one's going to solve that then. Like if you want your problem to be solved, you need to make your problem your mayor's problem or somebody else's problem, because then they're like, geez, this is a problem. I have the power to solve it. I should do something because this is really annoying. And I think to set to your question, so much of what political organizing is, and whether it's a fancy schmancy book like mine or Alinsky, all this stuff is really just the act of like collective complaining in a very pointed strategic way. Because if you don't complain to the right people, if you don't flag the thing to the right people, if you don't get enough people doing it, they'll say, okay, well, Seth's mad. Okay, so what? Seth's mad about a lot of things. Seth's mad all the time. He's so fiery. And he's like, okay, no, but now a lot of people are mad. It's like, oh, okay, so now I should probably care a little bit more. Oh, those people are mad. Okay, now I care a lot more. Um, and so, I think kind of bring this back to the central question of like, how does one get comfortable with politics? Is the act of just seeing it everywhere. I find that just very helpful. Can make you a slightly more annoying person to hang out with at parties for the first bit as you like get used to that, but that's a separate problem.
Thanks for that, Carter. Um,
Really.
looking at I think this is in the introduction as well. You quote Cesar Chavez about how politically organizing is actually quite simple, right? First you talk to one person, then you talk to another person, and then you talk to another person. And I know you, I mean, from the book and also just hearing some of your stories previously, have come up with some creative ways to talk to people and engage them in campaigns. And I know folks here are often looking for a more interesting way to talk to people than just tabling at the farmer's market, right? That's a
Yeah.
good way to do it, but there's sometimes some more creative ways to do it. And so I'd love to hear if you have any stories, especially juicy stories about some creative tactics you've used um, to get in front of
Yeah.
people in a way that really connected with them and what you've learned.
Yeah. I think for one of the big things is how do we get kind of our people, broadly speaking, like out of the woodwork? We are incredibly popular. We have tons of friends. You might just not know that. And if you don't have everyone's contact information, like that doesn't really help you as much. If you're like, well, we need to get ready to yell at the mayor or the city council member or the state senator, it's like, okay, well, you need to have people's contact info. That's a big part of list building, so you have this ready. And so one thing that I think is really helpful is good is just great thing about being bike people is we're fun. We're inherently fun. What we do is inherently joyous and cool and fun. And right now we are in the dark, we're getting into it's dark outside early and and what happens is people put up lights, for all sorts of holidays and all sorts of community things. And so one thing to do is organize a holiday glow ride, dress up, get lit is a different phrase, but like get your lights, dress bright, and we're going to do a bike ride around all the holiday lights. Like, where's the Christmas tree lane type of thing? Where's the big menorah light? Like, let's go out and have some fun and go see stuff. And whether or not someone's signing up to sign the petition for better bike lanes or more street lights, or they're just signing up to register so you know that they're there and that they show up and you're like, hey, can I have your information so we know to invite you to the next one? Like, congrats, you've built a list. And so doing these kind of fun cultural events is really key for kind of group building, which inherently is list building. And a fun thing about bike folk is we get to do all sorts of stuff. Like for example, I join there's a, we call it Friday morning coffee ride. We bike less than a mile. We get together at like 7:30 in the morning. We go half a mile. Like we do not go very far. And then we get a cup of coffee and like bagels and hang out and that stuff. And I think, and I'll go to Stuart's point and think like, and it's just something that is fun to do. And I think to Stuart's point about the menorah bike ride, which kind of fizzled out as in his own words, like it's fine if something fizzles out. Like recognizing that there's a seasonality to this, that there's, okay, how do we do something that we get the list together and now we're going from a kind of a cultural thing to the social ride to now a political thing of, hey, call the elected official. And regularly kind of moving people across these lines so that people know to respond to you, people know that what you're doing. Because one thing I think about a lot, I used to have I used to lead a 2-year long campaign. It was extremely stressful for kind of all parties involved. And it got to the point where people would answer the phone. A guy said to me once, like, "Hey, Carter, what terrible thing is happening now?" And we had the conversation. I was like, "Oh, I need to have good news sometimes. I can't, like, I'm really just telling the person, like, when Carter Lavin calls, you're about to be miserable for 30 minutes. It's like, this is not good. Like, that doesn't, as much as, yes, it's miserable but informed, that doesn't really incentivize joyously picking up the phone and all that stuff. And so, like, intentionally weaving in that joy. And, you don't have to do the great also thing about bikes is a lot of people across the world have done stuff. And so, maybe you don't feel like doing the naked bike ride day, which is, great for getting attention and eyeballs and a lot of other things like frostbite this time of year. Maybe that's not your vibe, but like a seniors rider, youth rider, Kidical Mask, all this stuff is very helpful. And one great thing about it is like you can also just pass out the flyers as part of it. Um, and I think the other part of like the creative thing, uh, it is hard to get elected officials on bikes. Some will do it, some don't feel comfortable, some don't know how to bike. I know that there are attempts to get like elected officials in cargo bikes, or like how do you like have them being biked around? That raises like other issues of they're like, well, that's not exactly the most dignified look on a cargo bike. But working with your community of like, well, what is the interesting bike that we could haul around, Summer Lee on or whatever that would seem fun? Or maybe it's just they wave you off and they, fire the starter pistol kind of thing. And so embracing that, and I think that's a big part to how to make sure stuff keeps going, that keeps growing, and keeps it fun.
And it's something I think a lot about is the difference between talking to people who are on your side and like finding those people who are on your side, right? And activating them, maybe mobilizing them to take a tactic or to do a tactic. And then there's the kind of things that are going to maybe wake somebody up who has not like really thought critically about politically organizing or being involved in some way, shape, or form. I'm thinking about that story. I think it's in the first chapter, maybe, where uh, you went out in a high vis vest and engaged with people on a dangerous street.
Yeah.
And I think you started shifting
At
people on
night
that.
on like a Friday night. I was like at 8 o'clock on a Friday night.
Yeah, can you
Yeah.
tell us about that and how you were really meeting people where they were at to kind of open their eyes and get them engaged?
Yeah. And I think one thing that's always really helpful for our community to keep in mind is who am I talking with at this time? And especially anytime you do anything on the internet, you have a lot of audiences. Because yeah, how you talk to your fellow bike advocates or your fellow bicyclists is really different than, hey, folks who maybe haven't ridden a bike in years. So a few years ago, I was doing the street safety campaign in Oakland, California, where I live, and we were kind of getting close to decision date, and we just needed to bump up our numbers. And it was one of those like it's winter and like you know kind of still earlier COVID, so there wasn't the like, oh, I'll just go to the farmers market and get a ton of people. But in Oakland, we do have a very big like first Friday nighttime street party. They shut down a street thing, and it's on one of the most dangerous streets of Oakland. Like it's between like two of the intersections are some of the most dangerous intersections. They close off everything between it, but you still have these super dangerous intersections. And so I would go with my little like flyer, which I have somewhere in my little goodie box somewhere here. I have my high vis vest. I'm a large, kind of goofy looking white guy, and I'd like wave to people, and they'd cross the street, and they don't get hit by a car. And like they're not because they were waving at me or anything like that. Just it's a dangerous enough street. It's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock on a Friday night, and so there are people, and they're like dudded out, they're dripped, looking great. And 5 seconds ago, they could not have cared less about street safety. Like that's, and we don't need, I don't need people to always think about it. We need people to think about it enough to sign the petition and maybe show up to a thing. And so by meeting them there and being like, oh, that was dangerous. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, someone should do something. Like, well, actually, so this petition, if you just scan the code right now, we're working on that. So if you can do that, and they're like, okay, cool, that sounds good. Scan, click. You need me to do anything else? Because I'm not going. I was like, no, don't worry. Go party. I know that I'm the thing now standing in the way of you and fun. Like I'm not going to be a barrier. And I think one part about this of like talking to our different audiences that's so important, as I talk about in chapters 3, 4, and 5, particularly with coalitions, is you you don't need you don't need the people who take action to be like the people in this crew. Like this is a very special crew. You don't we don't all need to be angels. You know, the Netherlands is not a country where everyone's just perfect to each other. It's a country that has a lot of bike lanes. They did not get to bike lanes because they all achieved perfection and harmony and kumbaya. And they're like, now that we're in sync with each other, let's get bike lanes. They got there because they're like, oh, okay, I guess we should have some bike lanes. And so, like, you know, there's plenty of jerks who bike in the Netherlands and support bike lanes. And remembering that, um, you know, whether it's a coalition partner or just an individual, that like we're not asking them to get married or change everything they think about their life. We're saying, hey, do you think it's bad that kids are getting killed at this intersection? And are you cool with a traffic circle right there? And they might say, yes. And I don't care about the kids at the other intersection. You're like, wow, you're a monster. You don't need to say that second part. You're like, thank you for signing the petition. We'll let this council member know. And, you know, that's can be hard, I think, sometimes for our community because we are people who care. But recognizing like, you just need to find the people who care at that moment. And one thing that we get to do, going back to your other question about creativity, is like we get to help people raise their awareness of that moment, that like there's all these things that people are crossing the street in Pittsburgh right now and they don't think about it. And like that's fine. But how, you know, we have all sorts of ways that we can help people raise their awareness and become aware like, oh, they just, you know, had the most dangerous moment of their life that day. And we could talk about how to do it in a non-jerk way because that is a tricky thing because sometimes the easier thing to do is say, cool, Seth's weirdo, I'm going to just ignore him while he's trying to save my life and like I move on with my day. You know, so there's different tactics to do and different approaches to like make it something that people want to stick around and talk to you about. And not to pick on you, Seth.
Oh, please pick on me.
I feel safe naming your name.
Please pick on me. You can pick on Eric a little bit too if you want. Um, anybody have any questions at this point for Carter? Something that you're thinking about, or even just want to reflect out loud to the group that you're getting out of this so far?
And yeah, for one thing I'm seeing in the chat about Kika and the basket for her puppy bike ride, like, yeah, people, one fun thing about being the people that we are, like, we get to create news. You know, we get to decide when we feel like being on the front page of the Post Gazette. And if you're like, you know what, we should do International Puppy Days coming up. Like, we should do a bring your puppy on a bike ride day. And can we get 50 people, 50 dogs, or 60, whatever your dog to human ratio is, like on a bike ride and do it. It's like, oh, why are we doing it? It's like, because it's a Tuesday afternoon and we figure we can get the front page if it's a random Tuesday. And it's like, cool, like great. Now you got a big, everyone loves bikes, everyone likes puppies. Like we're we're allowed to be like, how do we do free ice cream and rainbows and puppy dogs? So yeah, I'm glad you bring the point about how do you get a dog in a thing. I've been told cats on bikes are a lot harder.
Yeah, yeah, I bet.
I'm a cat.
Uh, It's Sarah and Murata for context. Carter is our county executive, and she's been a pretty great ally and regularly on a bike. So one of the couple electeds who we can pretty much depend on being willing to get on a bike if we ask. And I did not know she had a new puppy. That makes a lot of sense. Thomas asks, advice for working with someone in a position of power that you find personally distasteful and disrespectful. I bet none of us can think of anybody like that.
So yeah, that's a good question. I have like actually a mentee, and I guess I'm being recorded. I won't say. I have a person I work with who deals with this problem like a lot. Um, First thing I always say is confirm that you are literally the only one who could deal with that person. Like just because that person is in power and just because you are the head of a campaign doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the person who talks to them. Like if you think of it as like a language, like wow, this person is fluent in being a jerk. I don't speak jerkese. How, you know, who talks like that? Who's in my group connect? And because there is a wonderful thing about building out a big organization or a big campaign, it's like there's all types of people. And so some folks might be like, oh, that person's personally distasteful, but man, they're not nearly as bad as my like random uncle. So yeah, sure, I'm fine. Like I find them distasteful, but I don't find it like I don't want to punch them in the face. And you're like, okay, cool. Can you be the person to interface with them? So one, like finding that out is a big thing. Um, though, in the event that you're like, yeah, it's not, it's me, and I just have to be the one. It's like, well, one, that sucks. Um, I think there's a question of how much you actually have to interface with these people. Like there's a certain level where it's like, um, you know, if it's a elected official, you're like, okay, well, I do have to make the ask. We do have to have that meeting. Like, okay, let's do this. Let's like kind of harm reduce it. Basically, I don't need to be the person who's always at the happy hour, always like trying to schmooze them. I just need to make sure we have that minute of conversation. And I think the other part of that is like showing up to those moments with all the power that you have as you can. So basically, like, okay, I'm about to talk to this jerk next week because the vote's coming up and I need to line up. How do I get 100 people to call that person or email their office beforehand? And so when I show up to the meeting, they recognize that like, okay, they're being a jerk to me, but they're being a jerk to everyone, type of thing. Is kind of a key part to that of like helping remind them that it's not you, like whatever that like, and maybe it's an interpersonal thing, which is really awful. But definitely does happen. And then I think another kind of key part about this is almost kind of counterintuitively like bring a lot of folks with you. That if, for example, your county supervisor, whoever, is like just a super toxic person saying like really messed up stuff, and you're like, hi, I'm here for our lobbying meeting and I have 7 folks with me. You're like, wow, okay, is this person going to be terrible in front of a crowd? And that's helpful for them to see. Like it is helpful for more people to see that, because fundamentally how you deal with this person is you get them unelected. Like, you crush their hopes and dreams. They're being a jerk, you should repay the favor in kind. And so a big part of that is like, how do you help make this person more visible? Uh for example, whatever, I'm being recorded, not going to name names. We have an extremely toxic person who is in a transit agency board that people don't pay attention to. So it's one of those things that, like, he's a huge jerk. The other people who are around him see it, and there's like 6 activists who are aware of it. And so one big thing that we're also trying to do is help that story get out more and help show the patterns of jerkiness, because it's really important to show like, hey, this isn't just one person saying one weird thing that one time. Like, here is a pattern of behavior. Here's a direct quote. Here's the recording. Here's this stuff. And you don't necessarily even have to do it as a, and so, hey, everyone, take a look at this guy who's a huge jerk. I'm sorry for assuming the gender of this person, but taking a guess, taking a wild guess here. But women can be jerks too. I want to, they can break that glass ceiling. But the like kind of helping establish that stuff, because eventually there might be a point where you do a candidate questionnaire or something where it's like, hey, folks, we're trying to get this information out to the public, because maybe to your point, you're like, I don't want to be the person calling the reporter and saying this thing. Like, that's a whole other issue. I'm just trying to get a speed bump in. But if you can do the candidate questionnaire, like, hey, we're just asking these questions, or here's just a reminder, here's all the blog posts we've done about every candidate, like, you start making it a lot easier for people to like uh, tell the story together. Um, which then, someone else, like, because if they're a jerk to you, they're probably a jerk to other people. And so helping with that is a key part. And then I think lastly is, we talk about the importance of telling truth to power. I think it's also really important to lie to power's face. Like, okay, this person's a jerk. How good does it feel to like get one over on them? And there's all sorts of stuff. And so kind of tapping into your own sense of like, okay, they're a jerk, but am I able to get what I want out of them? Am I like, not tricking them, but like, am I quote unquote tricking them? And maybe this person does go out of the way and you do win them over to win the thing, even though they're a jerk. And they say, hey, can you put me at the front of the parade? I got my puppy too, or whatever. And you're like, no, you're not invited. And they're like, wait, what? I thought I did this thing. You're like, yeah, you're a terrible person. I'm fine not helping you anymore. And so it is very frustrating to be in those situations, and it, I feel for you, and hopefully some of that helps. Eric.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to that, to this question. This in the spirit of conversation. Going to the bike summit every year, you deal with some pretty abysmal people, or you need to lobby and talk to a lot of abysmal people. But to go back to your point, Carter, earlier, is like bikes are fun. And there's always like it's always a great opportunity or a good, icebreaker just to remind them of that and even ask them if they have any good memories, for instance, or something that comes to mind about like a positive memory about bicycling. And often even pretty abysmal people have great memories about bicycling, and it'll help ease the tensions at least. Like I found
Mhm.
out that I'm flaking on the old Pennsylvania senator was a bike messenger at one point, and then that kind of like set the tone in a way so that he wasn't like quite like kind of
Yeah.
he wasn't quite as like combative, we'll say.
Yeah, and I think that's a great, like, it's you get them to be chiller by either building a connection or by building power. Like they're bullies back down when you swack them, and so it's like, how, okay, if like the person doesn't care that you're like, figure out if the person cares if you're charming, and then charm and connect. And for like, oh, this person does not care if I'm charming, like, cool, then you could just drop all pretenses and say, hi, let's just talk about the rough power about this whole thing. um yeah.
Carter, I think also along the lines of getting the right people in the room to have the conversation such that you're either winning a person over who might have been oppositional or making it so they can't ignore you.
Yeah,
I want to
my
talk about coalition building. And so, bike advocates in particular, how can we really effectively build coalitions across the breadth of the transportation universe? I'm thinking especially with the disability community, others who maybe don't ride bikes, but nevertheless have at least some, maybe a lot of shared vision and goals.
Yeah. And so I think a big part about that question is focusing on what the other folks want. Like people want stuff, you want stuff. And so when it comes to the coalition, like recognizing, which chapter 5 of the book is entirely about, um, recognizing that we are building relationships for a purpose. And so to take the disability community, for example, like the disability community is extremely diverse. They have every type of diversity that every other community has, and there's a wide range of disabilities to have. Um, and so one thing, and and in a big city like Pittsburgh, a big community like Pittsburgh, like there are probably multiple groups. Like in the East Bay where I am, like there is a different group for the blind community than there is for people with physical mobility issues. And reaching out to these groups. And one thing you could do is like, hey, we recognize that we as Bike Pittsburgh get a lot of stuff done, and we want to talk with you and understand what you're coming from so that we make sure that we're advocating for stuff that works for you. So like just even showing up being like, hi, we're here to become friendly to you because we're going to keep advocating. What do you like? And they might say, we hate bike lanes and we want you to go away. And you're like, okay, cool. Well, that's obviously not going to happen. But given that we are going to keep doing this, what are some things that we can talk about? And so some people are might going to respond to that pretty well. The other thing to recognize about coalition partners is they're doing their own thing. Like people don't tend to have a huge blank slot on their calendar, be like, talk to someone else about an issue that I don't care about. And so showing up for their stuff of saying, hey, I see that you are doing this thing around um, like how like building code is a great example where there's a lot of disability stuff, and you say, can we talk about what happens right outside the building? Like, can we talk about sidewalks? And they might say, oh yeah, this is not the time where we talk about it, but yes, I'm interested in sidewalks. Which, fun fact, a lot of people are very interested in sidewalks. They might not care at all about the bike stuff. They may view that as other stuff. But even just like, how do we get sidewalks to be smoother? How do we get this experience? How do we get curb cuts? That also starts opening the door for why does a bicyclist ride on the sidewalk? It's not because they're evil and they hate people in wheelchairs. It's because it's not safe. And so some people might start doing it. And like having these conversations, showing up for them. And, I'm also just a huge fan of like organizing an event for the purpose of making a particular friend. So, for example, there's various like disability awareness months or justice months or history days or any of these things, and reaching out to a group and saying, hi, we like to do, we're doing an event about adaptive bicycling. We'd love you to be a co-speaker, or we'd love you to be there. And they're like, wow, that's an amazing coincidence. Like, yeah, it's not a coincidence. This is a love note to you. Like, we are trying to bring you into our group. Um, that there's so many things to do as part of that. And also, when dealing with coalitions, one other big thing to do always is use the language they use. So some people say disability justice, some people say disability rights, some people have all sorts of different stuff, and at your region, it's going to vary depending on your community. And so like, just quick Googling, checking their blog, looking at like, a great thing about coalition work is organizations tell the world all the time who they are. They tell the world all the time what they want, what they're working on, all that stuff. And you being able to show up in any way is helpful. And just an example I was able to do in Oakland recently, there's a wonderful kind of anti-incarceration justice group in my town. And we talk a lot about cameras. Basically, we're both against them for similar reasons, but like we deal with different like security camera, flock camera, all that stuff differently. My group recently was able to help them out because we do a ton of coalition building all the time. We have all these databases, and they had this huge campaign going on. They're really sudden deadline. A vote came up that they weren't expecting. And I said, hey, I have a list of like every church in Oakland from this other campaign and every synagogue in Oakland from this other campaign. I'm missing the mosques. I haven't had to build that database yet. Do you want that? And they're like, yes, please send. And so now I'm not just Carter Lavin, that annoying guy who like cares way too much about like crosswalks. I'm like, oh, Carter, help me with a thing. And so helping folks out is a very key part of also making these coalitions. Yeah.
I want to kind of point this particular area of conversation at I think Linda and Max in Moon and Dave in Mount Lebanon. I think it's relevant to all of us to do coalition building, and I know that especially in our municipalities outside of the city, you're working on building kind of an organizing apparatus that's a little bit different than our neighborhoods within the city of Pittsburgh, and it's that much more important to build coalition power. For example, in the city, like we have an ADA coordinator at the city level. The city is ostensibly, although not as well as they should be, thinking about these things. They have a ADA transition plan, right? There's like some levers we can pull in the city to have conversations about disability justice. Other conversations we had about how well those work, but I think in our municipalities, they just don't, those kind of things don't even exist, right? And so as you're building out active transportation plans, as you're talking about your campaigns, as you're looking at trail connections, as it may be, or even the ability to just be able to bike to work or get bike to school or get kids to school in different ways, you might be able to bring the disability community in and better understand what are their needs. Are they being represented at the table? Are they part of that conversation? Also, public transit, I think, is key. Again, especially in the municipalities outside of the city, where we know that service is getting cut, even more so than we're seeing within city limits. So that coalition building is something that I think is especially useful for y'all. And chapter 5 is going to be really useful for you along those lines.
And particularly, so chapter 5 is very much your chapter. And particularly for areas outside the big city where like there might not be a disability justice group in my town. Like there might not be that. An exercise I strongly recommend always is build out the database of all the groups. Like before you even have to reach out to them, just like who's there. Because a coalition partner could be not only that house of worship, but like that YMCA club or that seniors walking group of like we're seniors and we're staying active. Like or whatever, like just kind of writing down who is everybody, because you're stuck with each other. Like they're there, you're there, you're always going to care about it. And so starting to make those connections. And like lastly, one thing that I found really helpful is it's it's the polite thing to do. Like, you're trying to change your community, it's also their community. And so it naturally says, hey, we should talk because we're trying to make your life better. How's it go? And they might say, oh, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, okay, well, let's get a cup of coffee. Let's talk.
That's right. Kika, do you want to come off mute and ask your question that you put in the chat? I think this is a fun one.
Sure. Yeah, and thank you for taking this time with us today, Carter. And
Yeah.
I'm always curious, like, to ask advocates who, are kind of deep in this work, um, uh, whether it's transportation or something else, like what is your why? Like, what is this rooted in? Like, where yeah, like I said in the chat, I feel like it's often tied to a personal experience, maybe
Mhm.
not always, but I'm always just curious, like what is your why for climate and transit justice?
Yeah. I appreciate, like, on a personal level, I appreciate the question. I have not actually been asked that yet. So if this answer seems particularly poorly thought out, that is because I have not had to do this yet. Um, so it's not because, oh, I got hit by a car when I was a 15-year-old, which I was hit by a car in the Philadelphia suburbs when I was 15. That's not the moment where I swore a life of vengeance, although I realize I kind of have lived a life of vengeance since then. Um, so, like, whether or not I was like, oh, I got along just fine. It's like, I don't know if I did. I have a whole book to testify against it. But so I came to this, I'd say, from two ways. One, very much from a climate sense. Like, I was 15, maybe I was 16 before I I remember caring about climate change a lot, and then Hurricane Katrina hit. Like, I remember, like, very explicitly being like, "Oh, I'm a young kid. This is a big aha moment for other people, and I'm like only one half lesson ahead of them." Like, I recognize being like a lot, and because this was like early 2000s, and people say, "Well, by the year 2025, California is going to be on fire all the time," and it's like, and people are like, "That's bad for our grandchildren." It's like, I'm gonna be 30 one day. Like, I was just very aware. Anytime they're like, "Well, in 2050," it's like, yeah, I'm gonna be alive in 2050. Like, I love being a polar bear. Like, this is like, hey, folks, like, I was just always very aware of that. And I think also, um, and at the same time, I'm a big softie and I care about a lot of things. Generally, I've broken it down to I care about human suffering and I would like there to be less of that. To a lesser extent, also care about general suffering of non-humans, but like, kind of on team human on that one. And one thing that was why I worked in the solar industry for 17 years is because we have solutions to problems. Like, I, these are not we're not waiting for someone to come up with a laboratory and be like, oh my God, I mixed concrete and ash and I made cement, or however, I don't even know how you make cement, but like, we're not waiting for someone to invent the protective bike lane. We don't need the UCLA gigantic study to be like, oh my goodness, we found it. If we put metal barriers between cars and humans, cars won't hit humans. Like, no, we have these answers. And so for me, a big part of my why is like, uh, it's like, when you walk into a room and like a dish is in the wrong place, you're like, oh, well, it should be there. And like, there's this kind of cleaning up. Like, I realize a lot of my organizing and care is like, well, okay, how we know we need a stable climate to have to have a species that goes around. We know being hit by cars is bad. We know these things. Okay, so how do we fix that? And for years of my life, I was like really obsessed with like all those policy books of like, well, what's the answer and how does a carbon tax work in trading? And then I learned pretty quickly, it's like, oh, okay, so the issue is not that we don't have answers. The issue is that the people like us who have good answers get our ass kicked politically all the time. And I was like, okay, well, so the question is, how do we stop the ass kicking from happening? How do we get the good stuff that we want happening? And so I've been very focused on that. And when, I used to politically organize in the solar industry, as Seth kind of was mentioning, and a big part of my life was getting solar contractors from like deep red state, Bakersfield, which is like 300 miles away, to very far away, to drop what they're doing and drive to the Capitol with their team of 10 people to like join us at a protest. And every day I would just have to explain to people, they're like, why? That's going to cost me $20,000 for my small business to do this. Why should I do this? And every day I'd have to explain, like, here's how politics works. And they've asked some random question. And I just end up getting like pretty good at that stuff of like getting people to show up and drop what they're doing and travel hundreds of miles to like stand around for 20 minutes for a poster picture. They're like, really? This is worth me. Can I just give you $20,000? Like, one, you're not going to. It's like, no, I'm not. It's like, but also I would rather you just go up than give me $20,000. And so learning, the thing that keeps me kind of fired up is understanding that this is learnable. Like like Seth and I didn't get blessed by some magic organizing spirit, and now we're the best organizers, and you're so lucky to have us here. Like, no, this is all learnable stuff, and it's fun. Like, it's deep. There's a volunteer in our crew who's a 14-year-old kid who's homeschooled, and this like transit organizing is part of his homeschool stuff. And he was like, I care a lot about climate change. He's like, one day I'm going to be an old guy like you. It's like, okay, ouch. He's like, I like trains, I like buses, I hate climate change, and I don't like talking to people. Like, what can I do? And it was cool being like, great, let's talk through this. And he is making a bunch of videos for us. And I think one really cool thing, to bring it back home about your question about organizing, about transportation, is we are fundamentally, all of us, doing the work of making the world a better place for everybody. Any of your wins makes the world a better place for everybody. Even that jerk who is mean and disrespectful, and maybe they don't think that their life is better from it, they're not dying because of you. Even if they never get out of the car, they're less likely to kill someone, and they're less likely to get in a crash themselves. Like, we are making people's lives better every day in provable, demonstrable ways. And that's cool. So let's keep doing that. Let's get more people into it.
Kika, I so appreciate that question. And I think it's a good one for all of us to reflect on, because I think we just take for granted, oh yeah, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. And because, I don't want to get hit by a car, or I want to be able to bike safely. And those are all good, valid reasons. And there's also like some values under that. There's maybe some lived experience that's under that. There's maybe stories under that that are worth taking a look at and then using as fuel for really recommitting yourself to this work, which
And
is, go ahead.
sorry, and yes, 1,000%, we talk about the conclusion, and it's essential for getting other people, and particularly coalition partners,
Right.
in.
That's right.
That talking to the like radical, lefty justice group that thinks your bike people are sellouts because all bikes are $5,000 and only white gentrifiers bike, just being like, hey, I'm going to tap into like the true truth of why I'm here, which is, fun fact, the same true truth that you're here, and we're in it for together. And like, I find that very helpful to like have these coalition groups where people say like, cool, I'm never going to get on a bike, but I get where you're going for, because, to Kika's point, like, because I got your why. I get that we were aiming for the same thing. Maybe we have different tools in this like quest for liberation. But that I find extremely helpful for, as Seth was saying, like self-motivation, but like just coalition building.
I want to ask a question. Well, actually, I want to pause first. Is anybody else have questions, thoughts? We got about 10 minutes left in this section before we shift gears. So if anybody's got a question for Carter, or again, maybe like something you're chewing on in your own organizing work that you want to bring forward, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah,
If not,
let me throw a thought out there.
please.
My primary interest is transit, but close behind that is cycling, but all of it involves walking. So I think the word that I have not yet heard tonight is intersectionality. You can't just do cycling because it involves walking too, and you can't just do transit because that involves walking too. And I'm trying to figure out how best to fight on three different fronts when they're all tied together. It's three different sets of people that we'd have to involve, like the transit organization here, Pittsburgh Regional Transit. The we have two groups to talk to them. We have the Pittsburghers for public transit, and then there's the group I'm in, Allegheny County Transit Council. They do different things, but it's all about transit, and they not so much about walking or biking. Bike Pittsburgh is great for cycling in the city, but beyond, as soon as you get the city line, Bike Pittsburgh has pretty much no direct effect. But the transit system goes beyond that. Anyway, so I guess my question is how best to approach the concept of intersectionality of fighting in more than one front at the same time.
I am so grateful that you asked that question. That is one of my favorite questions. That I in the Bay Area, I run the Trans Bay Coalition, 9 counties, because that's our like regional metropolitan planning organization kind of shed of stuff. And we are street safety, we are bike, and we are transit. And yeah, your question is a big one. And so there's a couple of parts of like the how do we do this. One is collaborating with the other people who do it. So one person might say like, cool, I'm Bike Pittsburgh, and guess what? I'm inviting people from other stuff to come in, and here's this copy of this book. Like we are collaborating across this, these divides or these like silos, and that helps. Like one just kind of even recognizes saying like, yeah, we're fine. Like to take my example, like in the Bay Area, there's a San Francisco transit group. And when I say is great, you all do that. I'll copy and paste your action alerts when we need to send, and I'll send to our SF people. But like, sounds like you got that under control. You don't need me stepping on your toes. And so one big part to your question is like recognizing that people have their lanes, that some are Army, Air Force, Navy, whatever, however you want to use that metaphor, and just knowledge share across. Because fun fact, like the coalition partner that Linda's bringing on about talking to that church or that house of worship or that coffee shop, like, oh, okay, now we know that Linda has a connection with them. And so if you're like, well, I need them to sign on to this thing about bus stuff, I'm like, okay, well, you could reach out to them directly, but you could also say, hi, Linda, any clues, or can you mention that? Because yes, there are some people in our world who are like, I am only bus and I hate bikes, or I'm only bikes and I hate bus. Generally speaking, there's a lot of people who are like, I do this, I'm like vaguely positive on these things. And so recognizing who's kind of on that team, and they might be across different organizations, and that's fine. Like organizations are just arbitrary lines, much like a city has arbitrary lines. Like all this is made up. And so operating across that stuff is really big. The other part is, as I talk on chapter 5 on coalitions, like recognizing where there's inherent tensions. This isn't to say that you can't partner across it. It means know where you're going to disagree. And so there might be a project where it's like, this road is so narrow that there could only be a bus lane or a bike lane. And like, look, the actual answer is we should get rid of that car parking lane. And they say, well, we don't want to do that. The car people are going to go insane. It's like, okay, well, what if it's us together doing this work? And so a lot of times the answer to this like perceived scarcity of space is because we're not fighting the car people. Like, it's the answer is fight the bigger villain together. When you find yourself fighting someone who you want to be on the same side with, like pick the bigger villain. And actually in the book, Lord Cheweens of Pittsburghers for Public Transit, like tells a great story of helping navigate tensions between bus riders and bus operators around schedules, and kind of recognizing like, oh, the issue is not each other. The issue is management having a bad schedule. And a larger part is the issue is that Governor Shapiro ain't funding transit. And so actually, instead of yelling at each other, we need to yell at him. And so that's a big part. And that I find very helpful about that. You're saying intersectionality, which is a key part of like saying, okay, well, who are our common targets? What's the big piñata that we could go after together? And then I think the other part is building actual connection, building actual joy and actual community across these things. And so that when there are the tensions, it's not like in my earlier story, it's like, oh God, Carter's calling me. It must be a terrible news. Like you're like, oh, this person's calling. Is it because we're going to the Pittsburgh underwear party, Pittsburgh underwear bike ride?
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we have a bus contingent to the Pittsburgh underwear bike ride. Like maybe it's a bit like, what is the thing? And it's like, oh, well, that's going to make some people unhappy. It's like, okay, are they the people I'm fine making unhappy? Or are they like, who can I make unhappy? And so recognizing that there's that like natural allyship stuff and like kind of intentionally banking goodwill with them, like intentionally collaborating, swapping notes so that when you do have these moments of tension I'm mentioning, like, it's not just this, like, each other from more than just that. I feel like there was another part of your question, which was very good. Oh, just last thing you said about jurisdiction. This is one reason why I wrote the book, because we need people to own the heck out of their jurisdiction. Like it is very hard to like I don't do anything in San Joaquin County. That's one county away. They have a very large city. And occasionally there's a person's like, the bus service between these counties should be better. I'm like, great. Now I say, great, here's a book about how to run that campaign. Write the thing, I'll copy and paste and I'll send it to our list. But like recognizing that not everyone has to do everything and that you're asking people to do specific stuff, um, and kind of being flexible about what their involvement looks like.
Yeah. Thanks, Carter. Great question, Stu. Really appreciate that one. All right, we got just like 2 more minutes left before we'll switch gears, and I just want to like give an opening for you to just get us a little bit hyped. And specifically my frame here is that this work can take so long, to win projects like a bike lane on a couple of streets or 20 feet of sidewalk or, getting that bus stop moved to a place that we think makes more sense. Like any of that can take months, maybe years of organizing, right? And so it can be challenging. And then also sometimes it's super spread out. Like a lot of it's just waiting between now and when there's an opportunity for the next action. So like, how do we keep our spirits up? How do we keep jazzed in this work? How do we also empower others to get involved when it can take a while?
Yeah, love that question. Good one to end it on, which the conclusion is all about. So in 1,000 years, there's going to be bike advocacy in Pittsburgh. In 1,000 years, if there is a Pittsburgh and there is bikes, there will be bike advocacy. There will be transportation politics. This doesn't end. And I mean that in like a positive way, not like oh my God, it never ends. But like there's bike advocacy in the Netherlands. Like this stuff doesn't end because we're talking about people. And as long as there's more than one person, there will be dynamics between them. And so at one level, just recognizing like, oh, this is not, well, okay, Thanksgiving's coming up and then it's going to be the holidays and the New Year's. And if I just like make it to then, if I just grind myself to dust then, if I just pass out another 5,000 petitions or flyers, and then, we'll all sing Kumbaya and I'll win everything. It's like, no, February is going to happen. And guess what happens after February? March. It keeps going. And so I find that like greatly liberating in that sense of like, okay, there is no end. And so what that means is how do we build something that endures and that like is powerful for the long run? And so because winning is good, feels good, feeling powerful is good, and kind of growing your apparatus of organizing is good. And so one thing that you get to do, one thing that you all, particularly you all in Pittsburgh, you have a governor who wants to be president. That is a very fun thing that you get to use because you get to press a button. You get to press the, ooh, you have a reputation and you care what people outside of this area care about button. And that is a fun button to push as a Californian who has our terrible, terrible governor, Gavin Newsom. We press that button all the time. It's a great button. If I could take out billboards, if I had money to put out billboards in Iowa and like New Hampshire to talk about Gavin Newsom and like transit funding, I 1,000% would. So I think one part is like finding the power, finding the joy in that. And you might be a little bit impish like me, and you're like, ooh, it is fun to tweak the nose of someone who feels all powerful. Or like, I feel a strong way about Fetterman. How do I annoy him in a way that's productive? It's like, good, like you can do that. And I think to this point of like, there's so many things to fight. There's so many things like you get to pick whatever you want. And the more that you build, the bigger your power grows, the more fights you can take on. And the more that you realize like, not every fight has to be a whole thing. Like you could say, for example, hey, let's get, it's almost the end of the year. we're reflecting on the year. Let's get 10,000 people across the state of Pennsylvania to tell Shapiro, next budget cycle, we want 20 times the amount of money for bike safety, like street safety. Hey, Shapiro, this is our Hanukkah list for you. This is our Christmas list. This is as you set your New Year's resolution, how about no dead Pennsylvanians? How about that? And like, you're like, oh, what do we do? It's like, you get to boop us, you got to boop them on the snoot. And I think to that point, like especially in transportation world, it's so easy to think like, oh, well, there's that meeting, and then there's that meeting about the other meeting, and then there's these agencies, then there's the interagency meeting. We have to do all that stuff. Like, yeah, we're the activists. We're the people on the outside. Chapter 6 is about the inside folks. Like, you don't have to be smart. Like, you don't have to be brilliant and right and all these things. Fun fact, people who are really simplistic in their politics win a bunch. Like, you have to be powerful. And so, boop them on the snoot. And like, I think having that fun helps you with that, because you're like, oh, okay, how do I just push? Because the world does sometimes feel like it's only possible doing terrible things, which is not true. We do good things do happen, and we do make them happen. But recognizing that you don't know until you try. My talked about with Kia Wilson on the break, like, there's a street that I'm trying to get a bike lane on. We're getting it. People might say, oh, the businesses hate bike lanes. It's like, there's literally 2 flower shops that are across the street from each other. One flower shop likes it, one flower shop doesn't. And the reason we know this is because I asked them all. And you're like, okay, cool. That's powerful to be like, oh, okay, the things I thought were true about the world of who cares about this and who doesn't care about that, like, they're wrong. Like, we can go and ask all the people. And a fun thing about transportation advocacy is we can walk down the street and say, hey, do you think that intersection is like perfect? And would you be happy with a kid biking on that? Can you sign? And they're like, no, we should ban kids from biking. You're like, well, I don't have that petition. I have this petition about how to make this safer. They're like, oh. It's like, okay, well, keep going. And so I think kind of finding that joy, making that joy, finding that sense of power is really important. And, you're going to win all sorts of stuff, because I think bring us home to the last part, like, we already don't have everything we want. Like, someone the other day was like, Carter, your book's all about fighting, we should compromise. Like, compromise what? I don't have anything. I don't have the things. I can't offer you, there's no negative bike lane. Like, what are you talking about here? And that's actually like a shockingly powerful position. Like, I'm not in charge. You aren't in charge of anything. We're just people. We're like, they're like, oh, well, what about they're going to be unhappy? It's like, cool. I don't care about their anger. Like, you politicians should be more mad about me being angry, because this is what my anger does. This is what my frustration, and this is what, my happiness does. Like, okay, those like nebulous NIMBYs, those nebulous haters, like, okay, here's me, here's our 1,000 people, here you go. And recognizing that we're like, anything we win is a success. Like, to take one last example, like, so in California, we have this whole high-speed rail, which is being built. It's the whole thing. You may have heard of it. And some people might say, oh, wow, it's not going to be done for another 30 years. Like, cool. So if you do a ton of advocacy and you move that from 30 years to 20 years, that's a massive success. Like, literally anything we do is a success. And I find that extremely exhilarating, that like, oh, wow, if all we do is from now to January, we just do a very silly Instagram heavy campaign with an action network that sends a letter to Shapiro, or calls into Shapiro's office that says, your New Year's resolution should be no dead Pennsylvanians. And we just like hit that button, boop his snoot. Okay, we don't get $1 billion. Okay, you get 1% more. It's like, good, congrats. You didn't have that money before. Like, everything you did is progress. And so everything's a victory, and that's fun. So go win, go fight, go cause some
Thank you,
havoc.
Carter. Thank you, Carter. Sparkles, hand clap emoji, come off mute clap, whatever you want to do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Always grateful for your insight. I definitely recommend people pick up the book. I'm going to do another raffle. I have called the folks who are not here, so we've got more chances. A 1, a 2, a 3.
Mm-hmm.
Marion Roy, you get a book.
Woo!
We'll make sure to get
Congrats.
that to y'all. And I'll do one more before we wrap up. But I just want to talk briefly, and Carter, I'm going to take you off spotlight. You're absolutely welcome to stick around. I think you'll enjoy this next part because it's really just a really brief look back at our year. You can take a more detailed look at Bike Pittsburgh's year in review on our blog. I think there's a lot in there to celebrate, including a lot of infrastructure that, like, I think we were kind of surprised happened to some extent. But I want to just open up the floor for anybody here to share what are some things that you're celebrating, maybe that you accomplished and you're proud of, or something else that you saw happen that you'd like to shout out, and anything else you want to share that you see has been notable this year, um, including challenges that maybe you'd like some support to tackle next year that I can help with, that Bike Pittsburgh can help with as we're thinking about our planning next year. So celebrations, acknowledgments, and as you're looking out at 2026, things that you're thinking, oh yeah, it'd be really nice to have help with that thing. Whoever wants to share can just come off mute and let us know what you're seeing.
Okay, I'll play.
Please.
Thanks for the book. We have, I'm in Squirrel Hill, and for years we have been trying to get a connection from Squirrel Hill near Forward and Beechwood over into the run, which puts you in a position to connect to the Eliza Furnace Trail and everywhere else. The PennDOT is planning a major reconstruction of the Squirrel Hill interchange. And big accomplishment this year is that so far, their plans have still got a bicycle connection alongside the north side of the highway. It's not a done deal yet. We still need to watch them like a hawk to make sure that it doesn't get dropped out. But so far, so good, and we're celebrating that.
It's pretty awesome. And that PennDOT like came to the table and said, yeah, we want to do this thing, and actually quite a bit of connective infrastructure for biking and walking through redesigning a major highway interchange that is a hot mess. So I think it's kind of indicative of a sea change. And Mary and Roy and I think I don't know which Ben that is, but Yale, folks in Squirrel Hill, you've been working hard on that. So well done.
In company with Greenfield and Hazelwood.
Yes, absolutely.
So shout out those two groups also.
Yes, indeed. Other celebrations, acknowledgements.
Councilwoman Warwick has been very helpful about it.
Yeah, yeah. Any other?
Not one in the Pittsburgh area itself, but out in out east. They're finally building a bridge across Route 22 to be able to carry bicycle traffic for the Blairsville Trail.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And the Ghost Town Trail. So the piers are in, or very close to being in, but that's a celebration that was started 20 years ago to get some kind of crossing of Route 22. There's a 4-lane interchange, a 4-lane road out there. And bicycles.
But it's good to see it happen. I want to shout out and celebrate. Thank you, Roy. I want to shout out and celebrate Linda and Max for getting something started. It's the first bike ped advocacy group out in Moon area Safe Streets. Linda came out to our winning campaigns training at the beginning of this year, and I've had some conversations with their team, and I think you're doing some really cool work taking advantage of your comp plan, and just painting a picture for people in Moon about what's possible, which is an important first step in the process. So kudos to that. And if there's support that you see you would like, we're, as just kind of a hint and a teaser for next year, we've done this winning campaigns training since I started at Bike Pittsburgh, since before that, actually, almost every year. And this year we're not doing it, but we're taking the curriculum and we're breaking it apart into multiple trainings throughout the year. So that people who don't want to come to the whole day, or maybe you've even been to the whole day and want a refresher, we're going to get to also take a deeper dive on some of these topics because we can focus on one thing, look at it from some new angles. So we're going to talk about communications. We're going to talk about power mapping, issue definition, coalition building to an extent. All these different components of building a campaign we're going to spread out throughout the year. So, hope y'all can be part of that if you haven't gotten to get into the weeds with us yet. Linda, I saw you come off mute. Was there anything you wanted to say?
Oh, I just want to say thank you for saying that because it has been, I think I've already experienced that overwhelm of so much to do and so much, I don't know, so many people to talk to, just a lot of details. And I do feel success in that we have a core of maybe 6 or 8 people who are coming regularly to these meetings. So, and it hasn't died down yet. So people are excited. So thank you
Good
for,
stuff.
yeah, it is.
Good stuff. Um, Thomas says 18th Street climbing lane. Yeah, that and 21st Street redesign, some big things coming for South Side. Carter, just to clue you in, Thomas Wagner and some folks in our South Side neighborhood have been advocating for a very long time for a climbing lane on a street that we just kept getting stymied, especially because people were scared about parking removal and how it was going to affect this one auto body shop in particular. And then this year, the city was like, yeah, we're just going to do it. And they managed to just do it. And in part because another campaign has been getting so much heat in the Strip District, which is actually featured in the book. It kind of just sailed under the radar, and I think it's worth huge kudos to the Southside Smart Streets crew. It only got half implemented because of utility coordination messed it up, but it's definitely coming and finished next year. So it's good stuff.
What a great example of also like organizing, begetting other wins. Cultural translate. What's a climbing lane?
Oh, we are in a very hilly area. Well, you are too. It is a bike lane that goes up a hill because cyclists are
Okay.
going
Yeah, no,
slow.
that makes sense. That's it's a fun thing about what I get to learn from all over. I've not heard that phrase before.
Yeah, it's a
Pretty common here. And it's one of those where if it's a shared lane going down because you're going so
You're
fast.
going 30 miles an hour. Yeah.
You're going the speed limit, and it's kind of it might be even be more unsafe to be in an actual bike lane in those situations.
That's
yeah.
funny. Sorry. Yeah. I'm just absorbing that I'm a big flat biker, very lazy biker. So climbing lane. Cool.
We got him. We got him.
Congrats.
So I'm sure there's more celebrations to be had. Again, I put this out there a lot, and I think you already know it, but like if you're grappling with a challenge, if you're seeing some skill that you would like to develop, that's my job. Let me know. If you're experiencing it, other people are experiencing it. Let's organize a training around it. Let's bring people together. We also have these monthly booster calls that I lead where it's kind of like office hours slash group coaching. So if you have a challenge that you want to take a look at, we bring together a couple people with challenges or opportunities. It might not even be with your campaign. It might be like, I'm having a really hard time leading my group or getting people to show up, or there's a conflict. Like any of that is fair game. And if it's just me and you get to have a one-on-one coaching session. If it's a bunch of people, we end up kind of coaching each other, and it's really helpful. So please let me know what those are. Don't suffer in silence. Let's support you. That's for anybody watching the recording as well. Oh, Linda, someone on our mass group was just voted in the election to be a supervisor on the board. That's huge. It's good to have allies in powerful places. We like that. I am going to do one more raffle, and then we just have some final announcements to close out here from Eric. So you can think about those. I can send you the link, but here we go. Let's see who gets it. They got to be here to win it. Oh, I think Dave left. So we're gonna, yeah, Dave left. We're gonna do it again. One more. Is Justine still here? Oh no, I think Justine left too. All right, one more. Come off mute if I'm missing you. Dave's still here. Dave gets a book.
Congrats, Dave.
All right. Awesome. We got Mary, Dave, who was our third. Dave Kraut, Mary, and I forget who our third one was. Yale.
Was
Yale.
was it
Yale. Awesome. Thank you. Um, Eric, you're going to share some updates with us about the Strip District, the mayor-elect survey, and some like other things we got offered on next
I'm
year.
going to be really quick because we're running out of time. Thanks, Bob Barker there for the spin, and
You got it.
thanks, Carter, for your talk. I'm really hyped to read the book. I'm in the middle of a book, so I'm like one of those I need to do one at a time. So I got to finish this one. It's a library book. Got to get it done before before it expires. So, um, anyway, I'm gonna be like I said, I'm gonna be really quick. The Strip District. It's not the original plan, but it's done. There's still a couple things left, just so people know. For instance, the city's going to be metering the parking above 25th Street, so I think that's going to really help with some of the loading zone issues we're finding. We don't know when that's going to happen. It's in the parking authority's hands. Domi's sort of like trying to encourage them to get to it, but we're hoping sometime by the new year. You know how this stuff goes. Um, anyway, go ride it. Please support some Strip District businesses. It's while it's not what we originally thought it was going to be, I think it works pretty darn well, and I'm really excited for it to connect up. And then that this project is now done, or we can move on to the outbound on Smallman. And I just wrote a blog post that kind of goes into some of the politics about what happened and how it got tied up in the court system and why we ended up with what we did. Another thing which isn't on the list, but I just dropped in the chat. The county is trying to finish up their countywide Vision Zero plan, and they need feedback. There's a link in there about some upcoming public meetings. Seth just posted one about the mayor-elect. He has a survey out. We want to make sure that transportation and mobility is a big part of the answers to that. So please take that survey. Seth already mentioned the trainings coming up. We have a members meeting 12/2. That is December 2nd. Is that a Tuesday, right?
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday. Please come. It's for members. For Bike Pittsburgh members. If you're not a member, please become a member. We're all, everyone from here to to Oakland is experiencing some pretty dire, some challenging times for funding. And so we really want to encourage people to become a member, and a great way to get involved and to really is to become a member. And then the members meeting is a great place to meet other members and see what's going on. And we're going to have some activities and some snacks and stuff like that. Moving on, Seth has some safe sidewalks crew trainings. Actually, I don't know if Seth's running it, but there are some safe sidewalks crew trainings coming up on 12/13. It's a virtual one. If you're not aware, we're working with the city to basically log as every sidewalk in the city for sidewalk quality. And we're assembling an army of volunteers to go out there and help with this effort, so that the city can better focus their limited resources on fixing sidewalks and sidewalk gaps. What's I'm not sure what feedback survey that.
It's just our event survey. If anybody's got feedback about this program, our advocacy network gathering, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, and then one more plug, please become a member. It really helps show our power. We just topped 4,000 members for the first time in our history. And so, which is really a really big milestone. Considering there's 300,000 people in Pittsburgh, I'm not great at math, but it's a lot of people, and it's really exciting. So, just want to put another plug in for that. And if you're not a member, please join. I'm going to pass that back to Seth now.
Thank you. Thank you, Carter. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, everybody who's watching the recording. Let us know what you think. Yeah, hope to see a bunch of you on Tuesday for the members meeting on the 2nd to celebrate everything we've accomplished. And you'll hear from me with a follow-up. Have a great night. Really appreciate y'all. Yeah.
Thanks
I'll
for
stick around
having
for
me, everyone.
a few
Thanks
minutes
for
if anybody wants to
doing
chat.
some awesome work. A lot of members. It's really impressive amount.